The United States has vetoed a UN Security Council resolution calling for an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Gaza, saying that it did not condemn Hamas or demand that the militant groups be disarmed. The U.S. was the sole objector to the text, which also called for the release of all Hamas-held hostages and an end to Israeli restrictions on aid entering the Gaza Strip. It's the fifth time that the U.S. has used its veto to block a ceasefire resolution in Gaza. China's ambassador said that the U.S. was shielding Israeli violations of international humanitarian law. Meanwhile, the privately run Gaza Humanitarian Foundation says the opening of aid distribution sites would be pushed to later on Thursday, following a full shutdown on Wednesday. Dozens of people have died while seeking aid in recent days. Well, I'm joined now by Dr. Victoria Rose. She's a consultant plastic surgeon based in London. She's just returned to the UK after volunteering for several months in the Gaza Strip. Doctor, it's good to have you with us. We know that you're a plastic surgeon, but we want to be clear here that your work in Gaza probably had less to do with beauty augmentation and more to do with helping to put people back together again. Can you tell us about the types of injuries that you saw?
Yeah, well, only a bit of plastic surgery is cosmetics. The rest of it is all reconstruction. So we deal with everything from burns to cancer reconstruction, trauma reconstruction, quite a few congenital deformities. So my work is mainly trauma reconstruction, and that's what I was doing in Gaza. I'm seeing two types of injury, really. The first one is burn, and that's from the heat of the explosion. But we also see a few burns due to the cramped, crowded living spaces that the Palestinian population find themselves in. So they're makeshift cooking on open flames and boiling water. We do see a few children injured in sort of tent accidents, but it is mainly burns from blast injuries and then traumatic amputations from bombing events. So the sorts of things that we see regularly are loss of fingers, hands, legs, arms, and huge wounds that have been caused by shrapnel hitting somebody at quite high velocity when the bomb goes off. So penetrating injuries of the limbs, chest, and abdomen.
What are the biggest challenges when you're dealing with these horrible types of injuries? I mean, are you able to treat these patients the way you would like to?
No, there's quite a few challenges at the moment. The first one really is the conditions that the people are living in. Because most of the Gazans have now been displaced multiple times, some up to 15 times, everyone is living in very overcrowded tents, which are, it's a very dirty environment. There's no sanitation and clean water is running out. So first of all the wounds are filthy. So when you get somebody in that's been in a bombing event, the wounds are normally full of dirt and grit, and it takes a while to clean them before you can do any form of reconstruction. Mm-hmm. The other issue that we have is we're running out of medical supplies. There was no aid at all from the 2nd of March, and that includes medical equipment. So where I was working at NASA Hospital, we were running out of essential items. 67% of all consumable items had run out. So we were making do as much as we could. We were using gowns for drapes and we were all wearing the wrong size gloves, but we got to a point where we ran out of scalpel blades, and the critical issue was that we were running out of gauze swabs and betadine that we used to prep the patients. The next issue that we have in Gaza at the moment is malnutrition. That makes it very difficult for people to heal these enormous wounds, and we were finding that infection rates were really high, and this is due to the fact that if you're malnourished, you don't have the vitamins and essential nutrients that you need for active cell turnover. You don't have the immune system to fight off infection, and therefore people with what would seemingly be minor infections were dying of sepsis. Added to this, We hadn't had any antibiotics delivered to us, so we were down to the real last 3 types that we had, none of which were appropriate for these types of wounds. So yeah, really, really difficult
I mean,
conditions.
Doctor, you're describing there a very dystopian world that you were having to work in. What goes through a physician's mind when you're seeing, these horrible cases coming in one after the other?
Well, it's very difficult to stop and think about things, because if you do, you do get angry with the situation, because obviously this is a completely man-made situation and it could be stopped at any moment. So the best way to get on with this is not really to think about it, because the number of casualties coming through the door are constant. It's like a conveyor belt. And if you give this any headspace, you will not be able to keep going at the pace that you need to make a difference.
Dr. Victoria Rose, we appreciate you taking the time to talk with us and for reliving what had to be a very traumatic experience. We appreciate your time and certainly salute the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.